Hello YouTube, this is Michelle from Michelle Creates Fashion. Welcome back once again. In this video, we're going to create our sloper skirt back and sloper skirt front. We're going to get right into it. Right now, I'm taking the measurements from the front center seam to the side seam, back center seam to side seam, and the center front lengthwise measurement. I'm tearing a square of 12 by 12, folding it lengthwise and cutting it in half or ripping it in half again, right on the lengthwise grain. Here I'll have my front piece and my back piece and preparing it for draping. I will take a ruler to square off front and back pieces to identify my front hip line and front back hip line. And again, these lines will be square, perfectly square to the center front and center back at a perfect 90-degree angle. And now I will draw in a vertical line that is a ½ inch, that is 0.5 inches, ½ an inch away from the cut center line and the cut center back line. And we're preparing for draping. And in this demonstration, I did not square off a waistline this time because that waistline changes once you start draping in the dart lines. But I'm paying attention now to anchoring the center front. Now I'm creating ease by pinching a little bit around the hip. You need that ease for movement, for sitting, bending, and all the good things. Now you'll see me creasing, a finger pinch creasing in the darts, where I'll now cut through and begin to shape out the darts. At this point, you can pin out wedges. Because I'm working on a half scale, I prefer to just cut and ease out all of the excess in order to get shaping. It's almost like creating a sculpture, and it's very satisfying and gratifying to do. So I'm taping. My tape isn't the best tape. You can use masking tape, which will probably stick a little better. Now I'm feeling the ridge or the edge of the side seam, marking along the waistline, just kind of dotted lines. We'll true it up later, and you're going to, there's a bump at the side seam. That's where I'm trying to feel my way. And you're just gonna put a mark there along the length of the side seam. And again, it looks a little raggedy, but we will perfect that and true it up a little later. You'll see, if you stay tuned until the end, you'll see that truing up process near the end of the video. And let's cut away some fabric. So yeah, make sure that line is sketched in where you can read and understand once you take the muslin off of the dress form. So let's now go to your back seam. And again, we're going to line up the center back, the back seam, pin in place, and lining up right along the hip line, keeping that fabric parallel to the floor. We're pinching again for ease, while overlapping the side seam and pinning in place. Just to anchor, and we're pinning over the side seam. Make sure your balance lines are lined up. So you want those perfect balanced lines. And now we're going to finger press again the darts. The darts in the back are a little deeper because on this mannequin, the manufacturer chose to give the bottom, the bum, a little rounder, accentuated behind more so than any mannequin I've ever seen. So when you have a rounder mound at any part of the body, you will find that your dart shaping or your dart wedges will be deeper than something that is less rounded or more shallow. So the rounder the mound, the deeper the darts. That's a general rule of thumb when you're doing dart shaping or dart manipulation. And now we're etching in or sketching in our waistline. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. We will perfect that a little later on, possibly in the next video. And I'm drawing in just vertical lines to mimic back darts. Right now, I just put a pivot point where those darts will be cut and pivot to open and take that muslin from a 3D shape to a two-dimensional shape. And those lines could go from the waist straight down to the hip line as well. I just decided to angle it a little bit, but the results would be the same. Now you want to sketch in side seams again, making sure you're sketching right over the front side seam that was previously sketched in. And let's begin to pin the side seams. So when we're pinning, we're not pinning to the dress form at this point. We want to lift the fabric away from the dress form as if the mannequin was wearing the actual garment. So you're going to match that balance line, keeping that angle parallel to the floor again, perpendicular to the center front and center back. And again, those are our balance lines. I keep mentioning those balance lines because they play a crucial role in pattern making and when it comes to the fit of a garment. And as we go along with more lessons from this series, again, you'll hear it repeated over and over again, and you'll understand why as we go along. So here we go. We're unpinning the sleeve. So now we have our bodice front, bodice back, skirt front, skirt back, and our sleeve. And on this portion, let's begin to true up our pattern pieces. So we're taking it off the mannequin. And again, if you're doing this on a full scale, obviously you're going to need more room, maybe a full dining room table and a much bigger cutting mat. So we're sketching in, making sure that marker line is gripping onto both edges, the front and the back edge of the muslin drape. That line should be transferred to both sides. Right now, this is an important part where we are truing up and making sure that this edge is at a 90-degree angle. And when doing that, you're going to go along the front and go in maybe about a ½ inch to an inch and just make a 90-degree quick angle as I did here. And you're just going to take your ruler and sketch in the shape of the waistline just to make those lines connect and make sure they're smooth out. And you want to take your rotary cutter, or you can also use your scissors for that. Making sure your rotary cutter is sharp. Mine is not as sharp as it is as I want it to be, but a rotary cutter kind of gives a smoother finish without like a lot of riggedy edges. So I removed the pins at the side seam, and I'm just kind of truing up and balancing those seams out, making sure they will fit well as a pattern piece once this pattern is complete and sewn together. So I'm thinking about the sewing process as I'm chewing up these patterns. And as we begin to transfer these marks from muslin to paper pattern, we'll then worry about placing notches on these patterns. Right now I'm using as a guide the balance line of the hip line, and when we get to the bodice, the top, the bodices will match up the lines of the bust, and sleeve will match up the lines of bicep, elbow, and all that. Those balance lines that we keep speaking about over and over again. Now I'm sketching in my darts, and those could change as well. And here we go. This is the front where I'm adding that pivot point, and you'll see what happens when we slash that open. And here we go. So we are finished, and stay tuned guys for the next video where we'll finish truing up and begin transferring this muslin to pattern paper. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.